Jets, I hear them say it now.
Jets, white, green, just green and white. Tell me, have you ever seen a team take flight? Super Bowl dreams are still in sight. All we gotta do is win tonight. White, green, just green and white. Tell me, have you ever seen a team take flight? Super Bowl dreams are still in sight. All we gotta do is win.
What is going on, YouTube? Welcome back to another video here on the Turn Up the Jets YouTube channel. As always, I am your host, Joe Skirdo. Welcome to all of the new listeners and welcome back to all of the occurring listeners. Appreciate all the support. Before we get into this video, please subscribe to the channel if you have not already. We are pretty close to hitting that 300 mark. Also, follow me on social media platforms such as X and on Instagram at Turn Up the Jets. All one word. Appreciate all of the support. Last Wednesday kind of made my comeback to this channel. Now we're fast forward 7 days exactly. On Wednesday, it may be a reoccurring video day that I keep posting consistently, but we have a whole lot to talk about after we touched upon the moves previously. And now where we're at now, because we saw a big splash in terms of what general manager Joe Douglas has been able to do. Big moves on Friday night, big moves yesterday. We'll get into that. So let's just kind of date back before we talk about making moves. On Monday, Joe Douglas was quiet. He was sleeping. And then later that day, he turns around, he signs John Simpson. He turns around, he signs Tyrod Taylor, and he turns around and signs Javon Kinlaw. So all needs. Of course, offensive line is the dire need. You needed 3 out of 5 brand new offensive linemen to block and protect Aaron Rodgers coming into the 2024 season. Simpson was that first domino to fall. And then the next day, that afternoon, the Jets were able to deliver a trade with another former Raven, as well as a former Jet, who they should have never let go in the 2021 season, and Morgan Moses, as they trade a 4 and a 6 for Morgan Moses. Great move again. And now Friday night, so now you're 2 out of 3 with that vacancy spot on the offensive line. This is the real splash move that they were able to make in signing All-Pro and future Hall of Fame left tackle Tyron Smith, formerly known to be a Dallas Cowboy over the last 13 or so seasons. That is a move that shows that this is not an ordinary offseason for Joe Douglas. He is not messing around, and you could throw that conservative approach out the window. People wanted Joe Douglas fired on Twitter last week because they were going so crazy that they hadn't made a splash immediately. And people got to be realistic at times that you don't just, when the window starts, you don't just start signing everybody. It's a whole process. I mean, this tampering period has officially started. You can actually talk to these players. Maybe you're talking to their agents prior, but it's not like, boom, we're signing him right away. It's 12:01. It doesn't really work like that. And Rome wasn't built in a day. And Joe Douglas has showed that immediately, because the first couple days are underwhelming. Now you're sitting here a week later, and every Jets fan is in La La Land right now. They are feeling terrific. We're going back to the expectations, but this offseason feels a little different. Last season, yes, they go and trade for Aaron Rodgers. That's the huge splash. But name me who else they really got that we were so pumped about in terms of free agency. You overspent on Allen Lazard at the time. It seemed like it makes sense because you thought Aaron Rodgers was going to play at least 80% of the season, not 4 snaps. You go and sign Randall Cobb. Again, he's your 5th wide receiver. He's going to be good for those young guys. Well, Cobb didn't work out. Lazard was atrocious. And then Corey Davis retires before the season starts. Suddenly, your receivers stink. You lose Rodgers, and then after that, who else did the Jets really grab? I mean, Dalvin Cook, we know where that went. That didn't work out. This offseason seems different. And, of course, these guys they're not going to be making a huge impact if Aaron Rodgers isn't on that damn field. That is going to be crucial. We all know that. I don't even have to touch upon that anymore because, I'm still having nightmares of being at MetLife Stadium that day and having that occurred. But we do know that these are big names. Like Tyron Smith is a all-pro future Hall of Fame left tackle. This may be the biggest free agent move that Joe Douglas has made as a general manager. If he can stay healthy, and that is if he can, Health is going to be a huge difference maker in terms of whether this is a terrific sign or it's a bust. But the thing is, the thing that made it so much better, it's a 1-year, $20 million deal. It's not 20, it's worth up to 20 with $6.5 million guaranteed. That's it. I mean, you could say injuries. The Saints just paid Chase Young $13 million guaranteed, who's only played 16 games of the last 2 years. Literally. The Browns are essentially giving Jerry Jeudy an average of $13 million in guaranteed money over the next 3 years, who has not even eclipsed 1,000 yards. We're talking about a guy who is an all-pro, who played at an elite level last year. He played 13 games, but he was probably as good, if not better, than every single left tackle in the entirety of the NFL last year. He's still that good. He is a difference maker, and when he is healthy, you know he is going to be one of the best players on the field. So this sign is massive. It's a low risk in terms of money, and it's in just an infinity amount of upside and reward with Tyron Smith. So there's nobody in their right mind as a Jets fan or even as an NFL fan could disagree of this move. And yes, has he missed 35 games over the last 4 years? He has. But it's really been 2 major riddled years. Other than that, he's been able to at least clip 13 games a year, and it's going to happen as a lineman. If you miss 3 or 4 games, I'm not mad at that. I am not mad at that. And the last full season, yes, 2015 has been for Tyron Smith, but again, it's a rarity now, especially with offensive linemen. You talk about the turf, you talk about everything that goes into it. Injuries happen. So if he is able to play 13 games, then this move is a home run and then some. I think this is just a difference maker type move. And this shows that Joe Douglas is not messing around and he knows what's on the table. And he's not just going to be oblivious to the fact that if this team does not get to the playoffs, if this team does not exceed expectations, if Aaron Rodgers is healthy, then his job is gone. Is he going to get another job? Of course. Maybe not as a general manager right away, but he will have probably a lifelong career as an NFL front office type guy, whether it's a general manager, an assistant general manager, anything, whatever it may be. He will have a career in the NFL, but he knows this may be his only shot as a actual general manager. So he is not oblivious to that fact. And this move proves it because this is an all-in type of move. But apparently the Jets were even surprised that they were able to land Tyron Smith because they didn't think he was going to take that less amount or that, I guess, amount rather in terms of guarantee money. 6.5, that's not a lot of money, especially with his resume. And it's kind of crazy to think that the Dallas Cowboys weren't able to go over that number, and they weren't willing, and they have been sleeping. They barely have made any moves. And I know everyone in Dallas is kind of going out of their minds in terms of when you talk about Jerry Jones, but they didn't think that he was going to sign, and he did. And they were surprised and they were thrilled. And this kind of set the tone for the Jets for the rest of the offseason. Like, now their offensive line is set and they have flexibility in the NFL draft. Before free agency, you had to draft a left tackle or an alignment. It didn't have to be a left tackle. You had to draft an offensive lineman. Even if it was Fuaga, who was probably the third on most board out of Oregon State, if he was there, you may have to reach for him. You may have to reach for any type of offensive lineman because you were that desperate and you couldn't take any other position other than offensive line. You fast forward now, we're here on March 20th. You now have an offensive line that consists of Tippmann in the middle. Left is John Simpson. Right is AVT. And then the left outside of left tackle is Tyron Smith. Right tackle is Morgan Moses. That is a legitimate offensive line. Legit. Tippmann is a promising second-year player who really thrived at the end of the season, especially at a position that he wasn't even used to playing, hadn't played since high school, did a really good job at guard, was able to bounce back to his original position at center, and he's going to stay there. That's going to be his home all season long. AVT coming off back-to-back season-ending injuries, but when he's healthy, he's an all-pro type of player. Left guard, John Simpson. He may be the most overwhelming out of the 5, but he is still a legitimate starting offensive tackle in the NFL. This is not a backup or a third string type of player. He is a starter in this league. He may be maybe below average, but he is still a good left tackle. Left tackle, left guard, sorry. Left tackle, Tyron Smith. I already really explained it. He's an all-pro. He's a future Hall of Famer. Right tackle, Morgan Moses has kind of been an Iron Man over the years. We just found out that he played basically the entire year with the torn tricep. He did miss a little time. He got surgery. He should be good to go. A reliable right tackle and a super, super good leader and a locker room guy to have, especially pair up with your young guys that you have on both sides of the ball. So now that's a legitimate offensive line. Can you still take a tackle or can you still take an offensive lineman? Hell yeah, you can. I would probably prefer them to do so unless there is an ultimate weapon like a Ndunze and then Bowers I've been back and forth with. If it was today and it was Bowers and Fashanu from Penn State, I am taking the offensive lineman, but we'll see. If it's Fuaga and Bowers, now we have a conversation. Now there's a debate for me that I don't know who I would take. But luckily the Jets have over a month to decide, but it's huge that they now have that flexibility and they aren't just stuck at one decision. It doesn't matter who's on the board. Now they can actually go who they believe is the best player on the board. It doesn't have to be by position because, oh yeah, they needed a wide receiver too. By the way, they were able to get that yesterday with former Chargers wide receiver Mike Williams signs a 1-year deal worth up to $15 million. We still do not know the guaranteed money. I think it would be anywhere between $6 to $8 million guaranteed for the 29-year-old former product out of Clemson. And this is another player. Yes, he could be injury prone, but let me pull you something up. People will say that at Mike Williams too. Oh, he'll be great for only 2 or 3 games. I've heard all that shit that people are saying. His rookie year, he played 10 games. Okay. And then in 18, he played 16. And then he played 15, 15, 16, 13. And then last year he played 3. So last year was the only year that he played single-digit games. Last year was the only year that he played less than 10 games. And by the way, the 10 games was in his rookie season. So that was in 2017. Has he been riddled with injuries along the way? You probably put an asterisk on those 16 games. He's probably been in and out of the lineup with those injuries. Yes, of course, he was riddled with injuries, but let's not act like he's just going to play 2 games because that's what he's been doing his entire career. Now, he usually will give you double-digit games. And the same thing with Tyron Smith. If he's able to give you 13 to 14 games, I don't give a shit. If he misses some time, it's going to happen. It is going to happen. Every team is depending on injuries, and I know the Jets probably more than others just because of what last year and because there's small, tiny window of success right now that they need to win right now, and that's the expectation for the organization, for the coach, the owner, the GM, Rodgers, everybody. But you can't just say, oh, he's injury prone. Has he been hurt? Yes, he has. But let's not act like he's literally played 10 games over the last 5 years. No, he has played upper double digits every single year. This is a legitimate 1,000-yard type receiver, a big body at 6'4". He can go and get it from anywhere, one of the best deep threats in the league. He has a good drop percentage in terms of he doesn't drop a lot of passes like another big guy we thought we were getting last year in Lazard, who was miserable in terms of dropping passes. Mike Williams is a perfect complement to Garrett Wilson. I mean, this is a wide receiver too, who's been playing his career with Keenan Allen. He even said in his press conference today that Garrett Wilson in his game, his lankiness, his great route running reminds him a little bit of Keenan. That's some huge praise there, considering Keenan Allen is a very good player now at the Chicago Bears. But this is another great sign. I mean, can they get another receiver? Absolutely. It's the same thing now. They can use a receiver. They could use an offensive lineman or a receiver or a weapon, and they still have the need. But the fact is that they were able to fill both of those already heading into the draft, and they're not tied to one. That gives them tremendous flexibility. And we all know the story with the Taylor ham, egg, and cheese with NYJ Matt. That was really cool. He ate the sandwich. It was all good vibes yesterday at Florham Park. It was bizarre. I remember seeing it on, Tuesday night. Oh, no, I'm sorry. Yeah, no, Monday night, because he visited Tuesday. I saw, and I was like, this is crazy. He's actually going to do it. And he did. the Jets were able to get their hands on it, gave it to Mike Williams when he signed the contract. So Mike Williams was supposed to meet the Panthers today, was supposed to meet the Steelers the next day, and he still was drawing interest in his former team, the Chargers. The Chargers were welcome him to come back for less money, but he doesn't leave the building. The Jets get him in the building, and he doesn't leave, and that's something also Joe Douglas has not been able to do. He had numerous guys last year, the Calais Campbell, OBJ. You couldn't close the deal. You couldn't even get OBJ to the building, and you couldn't, in terms of same with Calais Campbell. He got him to the building. He didn't let him leave. He is now a New York Jet. So two huge moves in Tyron Smith and Mike Williams. I'm excited for both of them. Williams is going to be a guy, coming off an ACL injury in 2023. Hopefully he has fresh legs. Maybe it will take him a little time, but he is expected to be ready for week 1, tells Rich Cimini today in his press conference. Training camp probably more up in the air, but he does expect to play week 1. He's about 4.5 to 5 months into his recovery. Sorry, my glasses, I don't know what is going on. I think it's just because I'm moving so much. They keep going down on my face, and it's actually driving me bananas. But yeah, Mike Williams, this is another great move for Joe Douglas. Shows that, he's not messing around. I am curious to see what that contract is going to be in terms of guaranteed money. But again, you cannot be mad at this move. This is a great move. You got Garrett Wilson now. You have Mike Williams. You have Tyler Conklin. You have Breece Hall. You can add Browers, or you can add another receiver to that room. Lazard kind of steps to the 3-4 role where he should be. And the Jets are looking good as they, go along. They really have been turning it on in the second week of free agency. It's kind of a late bloomer. You probably give them maybe a C+ a week from today, and now they're hovering over a B+, in my opinion. And another former Pro Bowler in Jadeveon Clowney, a former Raven who had 9.5 sacks, a 70% pressure rate, or 70 pressures. I think that's what it was. 70 pressures, is now visiting the Jets today. He was supposed to visit yesterday because Mike Williams was supposed to visit Monday. It kind of changed. So now Williams ended up visiting Tuesday. They pushed Clowney to Wednesday, who is also supposed to visit the Panthers, but he is in Florham Park today. Listen, the Jets should land him too. And why wouldn't they? They lose Bryce Huff. People say, why do they need to add another defensive lineman? In this defense, if you hadn't noticed, you can never have enough. They rotate more than any team does in the league, and this is probably one of the biggest reasons of why they've been so successful over the last 2 years. Why you have this elite defense is because their defensive line is able to get to the quarterback, pressure the quarterback, sack the quarterback, because there's always fresh legs. And it doesn't matter who's on the field, they're going to be able to get after the quarterback. And Clowney's just going to be another guy to do so, and another guy to kind of fill the void with Bryce Huff. Of course, Will McDonald, a second-year first-round draft pick at Iowa State, is going to have to make immense improvement, Jermaine Johnson-type improvement to go in there. And I expect that, hopefully he can, because the Jets saw a lot on him, drafting him in the 15th overall. And that's a huge reason why you don't bring back Bryce Huff, because if you did, you gave him $17 million a year. You gave him a $51 million contract. You're thinking, why in the hell did you even draft McDonald if you were just going to give Huff, who, by the way, only played 40% of snaps? So that just shows that these guys play everywhere, and that's why Clowney would be a tremendous addition. So why would you give him that money? I mean, yes, it sucks. I did not want to lose Bryce Huff. I didn't really even touch upon it in the last video that I made a week ago. But, it's, you got to be realistic. I wasn't mad at Joe Douglas letting him go. I know a lot of people were pissed off. I wasn't mad. It's a business decision. I get it. I mean, yes, did he put him in that hole for drafting a head scratcher like Will McDonald, who you probably could have gotten possibly even early second round, at least late first round if you traded back into the first? Yeah, it's a head scratcher, but he is making his decisions based off of what he thinks is best for the team. And I don't think throwing $51 million at Bryce Huff would have made any sense at all. And now when you get Jadeveon Clowney, you probably get him on a cheap contract. People are saying, we don't need another one. Yes, you do. You always need them. You just don't need them at that price. So Clowney would be a huge addition. If the Jets sign Clowney now and they get Tyron Smith, Mike Williams, and Jadeveon Clowney in just like a 4-day span. We're looking good. The Jets are looking good. Of course, you actually have to play the games. You have to stay healthy, and you have to live up to the hype. But on March 20th, where everyone overreacts, no matter what it is, the Jets are looking good. And I do expect the Jets having a really good chance of signing Jadeveon Clowney. Does the contract of Mike Williams kind of restrict you from doing it as easily as you thought? I don't know. I don't think Clowney is going to be demanding anything crazy. It's probably going to be another, incentive heavy deal. That's probably who's going to get what he's going to get, whether it's the Jets, the Panthers, or another team. I'm sure he has plenty of suitors who are interested, considering that he did have a really good year last year in 9.5 sacks. I mean, Bryce Huff had 10. So do the math. Like, they played equally as well. And he was really, really good in terms of getting after the quarterback and pressuring the quarterback and forcing fumbles. So I really want Jadeveon. I think that really puts the icing on the cake. And then after that, you probably go grab a safety. You're looking at safety. And then in terms of depth, you're looking for linebacker depth. And then I think the defense is totally set, especially if you got Jadeveon to pair with Kinlaw in the offseason. And then in the offensive side, already mentioned, it's the offensive line. Add more depth there, and add more depth to the wide receiver room or tight end room, whatever playmaker. And then maybe you get another running back. I don't know if Izzy Abanikanda is the guy that's going to be the set and forget RB2 behind Breece Hall. But then those are just like the little moves. The Jets have completed everything that they really needed. And that's offensive line, wide receiver. You get your kicker and punter back, backup quarterback, and Bryce Huff's replacement. I mean, seriously, like, that is the dream offseason. And I think it's a home run for Joe Douglas. You're floating almost to the A's if he is able to land Jadeveon Clowney, because I think both signs both contracts and moves for Mike Williams and Tyron Smith were terrific. But you know what? We'll follow it closely here. If I'm able to get on here and blabber when Jadeveon Clowney, if or when he signs, I will be sure to do so. But look out, either way, every Wednesday I will be posting content. But it might be, emergency. But like, if it's breaking news, I wanted to get in Tyron Smith, but, I had a couple of adult beverages on Friday when they signed him, and, I was going to wait. And as soon as I heard that same night, you heard that Jadeveon and Mike Williams were were visiting this week. Then I was like, I will wait, because I think the Jets are chefing something up, but they absolutely are. But by the way, that's going to end it here for this video. Really appreciate everybody to tune in or to somehow last of me just spewing bullshit for about 22 minutes. It's always a pleasure to get on camera and talk New York Jets. Again, subscribe to the channel, like the video if you actually liked it. Follow me on social media platforms on X and on Instagram at @TurtleJets, all one word. I will be updating you all off season long, as it's the NFL season. As soon as March hits, you got the free agency, you got the combine, and then you have the draft in April, and then boom, mini camp, training camp, preseason, season. It's going to be here before you know it. Until next time, see ya.
Jets, I hear them say it now.
Jets, white, green, just green and white. Tell me, have you ever